Hello, everyone. This is Whitney Gilstrap from E2B Technologies, and thank you for taking your time out of your day to join our webinar today. Today, we've invited Alltech to show you DocLink, the Sage endorsed document management solution. And the goal of this webinar is to show you a more effective way of managing everyday business processes by going digital so that you can eliminate the paper and streamline your processes. Hopefully, we can start to give you some ideas on how going digital can help you improve efficiencies in AP, AR, sales order, contracts, HR, or any department throughout your enterprise. Laura Laitgen from Alltech is going to show us what I mean. Laura is Alltech's sales director for the Northeast area, and she has over 15 years of experience in workflow and content management and is adept at equipping organizations with state-of-the-art tools and knowledge to successfully streamline business processes and drive down costs. A quick note before I turn on the meeting over to Laura, we do have a Q&A box, so if you do want to use that and have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to enter them into the Q&A box. I will try to answer them, but probably most likely at the end of the presentation, and then I will just read them over to Laura, and then she can go ahead and answer them from there for you guys. So with that, I would just like to say enjoy, and Laura, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right. Can you hear me okay, Whitney?
Yep, I can.
Excellent. Can you see my screen?
Yep, you're
Excellent.
good to go.
All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present Sage Integrated Document Management Solution. Today, we're going to give you ideas of how we can help your organization streamline your business process and increase efficiency and go paperless at the same time. Here. Okay. So we all live in a world where we're used to having instant access to information from anywhere around the world. Think about it. The minute that you get off a plane, what do? You turn on your phone, find me the nearest direction to the hotel, or find me the nearest, restaurant, or find me the recipe how to make quiche. So why is it so challenging to have instant access to your own company documents and information? It's your information. You should be able to manage it. You should be able to access it from anywhere around the world. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, let's talk about how you are managing your documents today. Some of you are still using file cabinets. Looks familiar? Walking down the hall, walk into your office, and you see those file cabinets. Well, you're running out of storage space, right? And having to find those documents, if you can find those documents, can be challenging. So then there's also, some of you have those network, copier, printer, and one multifunction device, and you're scanning documents and you're putting on a network drive, okay? That's wonderful. You're paperless. However, over time, though, you're going to be storing more and more documents into your network drive. So searching can be challenging. And unless you're the person who stores the documents away, most likely others are going to have a hard time finding it. And to find it, you have to drill through the folders, the subfolders, the sub-subfolders. That is, if you can find it, because what happened if you store the document into the wrong folder? And what about, I know that document was there last week, or that folder was there last month, and magically it disappeared. It's because we're all happy mouse clicker. I'm guilty of that, okay? I actually move things or delete things. And of course, I panic and I call IT. Okay. So it's like the ability to restrict people from accessing certain documents and able to delete them and move them can be challenging on a network share folder. Some of you have in-house software application where it has included a document management system with it, okay? But in many cases is that it's just a link to the document. Your document is still living in a network share folder somewhere. So how can we restrict so Whitney doesn't go into that network share folder and delete the document or move it or modify that document? And of course also is that those are restricted to only searching and accessing document that has to associate with that particular application only. What about your other documents? So this is where DocLink come in play. What is DocLink? Some of you may have heard of the term document management. There's also record management. There's also content management. Well, DocLink were all of that. What is document management? Some of you may decide, you know what, Laura, I'm running out of storage space. I'm tired of paying for offsite storage. We're moving to a bigger, better office, and we don't want to have to, carry all those documents with us. We want to be disaster preparedness. So we want a system, a standalone system for just to store our document and to search. That is document management, okay? However, some of you may have documents that have retention schedule. Take an example, your contracts. I'll bet you, by law, you're required to keep them for X number of years after it expires, and then after that, you need to get rid of those documents to comply. Or what about the ability to track and know when the contract expires, when it doesn't need to be renewed? You have employee contract, you have maintenance contract, you have customer contract, vendor contracts, and so on. And other documents that you have that you're able to track the life cycle of when it expires or when the retention period is up. That is record management, okay? The ability to track the life cycle of your document. Wouldn't it be awesome to able to have a system where it can send you an auto alert? Hey, Whitney, here's the list of contract that's going to expire 3 months from now. That way you can be proactive and get it renewed ahead of time. Or here's the list of contract that met its retention schedule or period last week or last month. So now if you want to comply, you want to get rid of those documents. Okay. And then there's content management. You have live working documents that are coming in that needs to be routed around for review and approval and action to take upon. Take example, your AP invoices, the vendor invoices that are coming in. You need to route it for people to review, to code, to match, to verify before you process the payment, okay? So that is the workflow components. The idea for workflow is it gives you visibility to the documents. So you could be anywhere around the world and be able to review and sign off on that document and able to access that document, okay? It has a full audit trail. So you know exactly where everything's at, who's working on it, how long it's gonna take before it's completed. And also to know where the document's in the process. So how often does a vendor call you up and say, hey, Joe, I sent you an invoice 2 months ago. I haven't seen payment yet, so I can't process your next order. Would it be nice for Joe to be able to go in and know where that invoice is at, has it been paid, or where it is in the approval process, without having to contact accounting, which they're out to lunch, okay? Then there's also automated delivery tool that's available, where you generate a lot of in-house documents, okay? For example, your purchase orders, or AR invoices, or order acknowledgement. When you create them, it needs to get them to the customers or vendors. So we have ways where we can automatically send out those documents to your customer or vendors, which we're going to demonstrate for you in a little bit. And then there's also electronic forms. I'll bet you many of you today are still filling out forms that's on a piece of paper or in Excel format or in a Word file or a PDF file. Is how can we go electronic with these forms and reduce a lot of the data entry? So that's what we're going to discuss today, because why? DocLink, we can do all of that. You can use it as a standalone document management system. You can use it as a record management system, so to track the life cycle of your documents. You can also use it as a full enterprise in content management, because our system can store any file format. So you have Word file, Excel file, PowerPoint, video file. I even have engineering companies storing their AutoCAD drawings in the system. I have hospitals storing x-rays of patients. You can store digital pictures and videos and audio files in the system as well, and able to route those documents around for approval. Okay, so we're going to demonstrate that. Okay. Now, before we get into the demonstration, let's talk about the integration with Sage. Okay? DocLink, we are Sage Endorsed Alliance Partner. So what does it mean for you as a customer? You can upgrade Sage at any time or DocLink at any time, and rest assured that the compatibility, the integration between the two applications are always intact. You now have two places where you're able to access your document. You can search and have access to the documents within Sage, but then you have a lot of staff that don't have access to Sage. So those staff will access document through DocLink. Additionally is you have a lot of your customers and vendors information already available in Sage. Let's reduce that data entry. Let's repurpose that data. So an example, when an invoice comes in, you want to store into DocLink. But instead of having to manually type in, the vendor name, vendor number, their payment terms, and so on, all that data is already available in Sage. So we can link to Sage to pull all that data over. Imagine DocLink as your pipeway of information. We can pull data in and we can push data out. Okay, so example, you create a purchase order in another software application. We can actually store a copy of that purchase order along with all the data about that purchase order automatically into DocLink. And then we can push all that data over to Sage to help reduce data entry. Okay. Now, there are a lot of companies out there, document management system out there, and they will tell you, oh yes, we can integrate with Sage. But watch out, because they will forget to tell you that it's through a process called screen scraping. It's kind of like integration at the surface level. So it means that when you upgrade Sage or when you upgrade that document management system, in many cases, the integration gets broken. So you as a customer will have to pay to redo that integration. But with DocLink, because we are their a Sage endorsed partner, before Sage send out a new release, or before DocLink, before we have a new release, we make sure that the two systems are compatible before we release it out to our customer. Big benefit for you. All right. Now, why? Why go paperless? Why document management? I urge you folks, be proactive, okay? Don't wait, because there are a lot of disasters happening today. We have hurricane right now, okay? We have tornadoes and fires and earthquake. Don't wait until it happens to you and then, oh my gosh, I got now to figure out a way how I can safeguard all my data. Go paperless now, because all your data, all your document going to be stored on the server. Backup will be done. If something happens to your documents or the data, we can restore that information from backup. So here's an example of a property management company that is in the Midwest, and they're in a tornado zone. So knowing where they're at, they were proactive and they went out and they used DocLink in the accounts payable department. Now the other department, they didn't have a chance to go paperless in other departments yet. So one year, a level 3, it was level 5 tornado that hits the town. And a lot of the document got destroyed, except for the AP department. They had zero data loss because we were able to restore their data, while their other departments, a lot of documents were, gone. Many of us, company are growing, wonderful. We're expanding, we're acquiring other business. But so when you're growing, though, you have to add additional staff to accommodate that growth. But if you were to go paperless and using workflow, we can streamline your process. We can increase efficiency. We can take away a lot of that manual labor process, the mundane data entry from a lot of your staff, so they can take on more responsible workload. So that way you don't have to add additional staff. So like I said, and so what does that mean for you? Is that you can expand without having additional staff. So you don't have to, that annual salary that you're going to save, that's a big ROI right there for you. One-time investment, but yet that annual staff salary, you never have to pay out because you didn't hire additional staff. There are many other reasons why you need to go paperless, okay? But that's just to name a few. I'm going to want to give you some example of how the DocLink can be used within your organization. Now, the big benefit for you is DocLink is an enterprise content management system, okay? Many customers like you will start the system in the AP invoicing side of the house because that's the most trouble spot in most organizations. I hear it every day. We can't get our invoice approved on time because the CFO is always traveling and on the road and he won't approve off on the invoice so we actually see it. So we have to wait till he gets back to the office. Or we spend a lot of staff time doing duplicate data entry and there's a lot of chance for error and so it causes a lot of delay. So we can't take advantage of early pay discount. We actually end up having to pay penalty fee. Those are just a few issues that we hear every day. Okay, well we can eliminate all of that. So now we're going to give you a demonstration of how of the AP process. Okay, but I just wanted to point out some of the few things that you want to pay attention to. So the idea, folks, get your vendors to email invoices to you. Okay, because there are a lot of benefits for you and for them. But what we can do is when they email it to you, we can monitor your email server for a specific email address. So when they email it to you, we're going to grab those invoices. We can actually read the data on the invoice and then bring it into DocLink. Okay. If you have purchase order invoices, we can actually do automated matching against your purchase order and against your receiving as well. Once it's in the system, that's when workflow takes over and it's going to route the invoice to the appropriate staff for action or approval. So if you're out in the golf course or you're out at a conference, you don't have to worry because you can have access to the documents and approve off by the mobile app, your device, on the web, or by email. There are different methods. The idea is be able to be anywhere and able to have access to your documents and approve often those documents, okay? So if you have email, notice here on our email, we actually attach the documents to that email. We have information about that document. And directly from your email, you can click approve or reject. When you click approve or reject, then it will automatically route it to the next person based on your process. But our workflow also log who approved it or who denied it and when. So that way later on you can go in into your audit trail and say who approved off on that $5,000 invoice 2 years ago. Okay. So what about you're on vacation or you're out sick for the day? You can delegate your work to other staff. So you don't have to worry about, it's sitting in your inbox and with all these workload piling up and the invoice going to be delayed. So that's a little bit about the workflow. But the key is once you own workflow, you can use workflow for the routing and approval of any types of documents. Okay. So we're talking about AP invoices right now. But what about approval for your purchase order before it goes out to your vendors? Processing of your orders, or approval of contracts, or vacation requests, or new vendor requests, or hiring, onboarding of new staff. Any documents that need to be routed and for action to take upon and for approval, you can use our workflow. It is unlimited. Okay, here's another key benefit to our system with the integration with Sage. We see all the time, invoice comes in. AP staff will route the invoice to the approving manager for review and approval. The approving manager, in many cases, will write down the GL code or account code they want to use on the invoice. Eventually, it makes its way back to AP, and then AP will try to read their handwriting and then input that same data into Sage. Well, I don't know about you, but that's a waste of company staff time right there and a chance for error, because you're trying to read something and you're doing data entry. But the reason why you need to do that is because the approving manager don't have access to Sage. So how can we resolve that? So with your approving manager, they do not need to have Sage installed on their PC, okay? But when they receive the invoice, when workflow notifies them that there's an invoice requiring their approval, they can actually go in, look at the invoice. Notice to the right here, we are connected directly to your GL master file in real time. Okay, so based on your login, you will have access to a listing of certain GL code that's been assigned to your department based on your login. These GL codes are coming in real time from Sage. So you can just select the GL code from a drop-down list. Now, if there are certain vendors that you deal all the time using the same GL code, we can set that up as a default. If you have it set up as a default in Sage, okay, when the invoice comes in, you type in a vendor name, it's going to go to Sage, it's going to pull over all the vendor information, their payment term, their address, their and if they're intercompanies, and also the default GL code. Once that's been done, the coding, what we call coding, okay, our system is going to create a cover sheet with the audit trail, the history of who did the coding and when and what was the information. And if you need to go in and make some changes, you can, and the system will create another cover sheet with the updated information and who made the change. But once this is all approved and done, with a simple click, okay, our system is going to push all that data over to Sage in batch mode. So we're going to push, let's see here, we're going to push all that GL coding information from DocLink over to Sage. Now here's an example of Sage 100. We may have people in the presentation today that is Sage 300 or 500, or X3. Doesn't matter. We are integrated with all of the Sage ERP solution. Okay, but we push all that coding information over to Sage. And notice here, while I'm here, see this view document button here? If you click on it, it will display all the documents associated with that invoice directly within Sage. So you're going to see that in the demonstration, but I just wanted to point that out as a key highlight. Also, but if you're going to run into some approving managers that don't want to deal with selecting any code, they like writing it on the invoice like they normally do, that's fine. Let them do that. But let's do it the paperless way. So we have sticky notes where you can highlight, you can draw a line. We have a note box area here that you can take notes. I already mentioned that our workflow track all the approvals. But if you still want to see the approval on the invoice or document itself, we have approval stamp. So based on your login, the system will place a permanent stamp on the document based on who logged in, the date and time that it was approved or denied. And like I said, we also have a redaction tool too. So if you're going to use this, let's say there's a social security number or, identification number or date of birth or anything confidential, you can redact that information, okay? Once it's been approved, you're going to process your payment in Sage. We have a feature called AIIM, Enterprise Report Management. We have the ability to automatically capture an image of your payment along with all the data about that payment from Sage, and we're going to store it to DocLink, your file cabinet. Notice that this payment here paid for multiple invoices. We are going to link this one payment to all those associated invoices. Okay? So that way later on, when Mr. Vendor calls up, hey, Whitney, I sent you an invoice 2 months ago and I haven't received payment yet. What's going on? Whitney, who do not have access to Sage, and could just go into DocLink, type in an invoice number. If it's been paid, Whitney will see the payment number and the payment date. If Whitney have security permission, Whitney will see a copy of that payment. If Whitney have further permission, she will be able to email me out a copy of that payment as proof. It's all security based. Okay. And this AIIM feature here, you can use it to capture any kind of document that you generate in-house from any software application. So folks, if you generate purchase order, We can capture an image of it along with all the data about that purchase order, and we're going to store into your DocLink, your file cabinet. If you create AR invoice or HR document, any document in-house, we can capture it and store into your file cabinets. No need to print it out and scan it in just because you want to store into DocLink. Okay. So that's a little bit about the AP process. Okay. Now, let's talk about searching now. I already showed you how you can access the document within Sage. But what about within DocLink? Okay, so here's a user interface screen. You want to search for something? All you have to do is go in and tell the system, okay, DocLink, find for me all documents within all my companies, anytime for vendor name Alltech. Or you can filter down, folks. Find for me only the AP invoice within Fabricon company for Pacific invoice number. Or maybe you want to search, show me all the invoice been paid with GL code 123. Show me all the invoice that was paid yesterday or last week or last month. Show me all the invoice that's been charged to my department. Show me all the invoice that are still outstanding for my department. All kind of searching capabilities, all those data are in DocLink. You can even do, wildcard search, relational search, even full text searching. Imagine going in, show me all the documents anytime the word E2B mentioned anywhere on a document. That is full text searching. Now I know in AP is not necessary, but imagine later on when you start storing contracts or your HR files and other documents, full text searching is very, very useful. Okay, so for right now, I'm just going to search for invoice number. So the system bring up a search result based on that invoice number. If it's been paid, I will see a check number and a check date. Okay, or maybe I'm looking at this and I'm saying, you know what? Show me all the document associated with this purchase order number. I can just select on that field. It will now bring up all the documents associated with that purchase order number. If I want to see them all, I just select them all with a simple click. The system will bring up all those documents on the same screen for me on a tile format or thumbnail format. So the idea, folks, is if you create purchase order, we are going to capture an image of that purchase order, and we're going to store into the system right away. When you receive your goods, and if you're doing receivings, we want you to store those packing slip and receiving document into the system right away, and those get linked to the purchase order. So that way, when AP receives the invoice, it gets stored into the system. AP, you have everything right in front of you, right there. You don't have to wait for the receiving department to send you those packing slips or for the purchase order from the purchasing department. You can then do your manual matching like you're doing today, right there in front of you. But as I mentioned, we can do automated matching for you as well, the invoice against your purchase order and against your receivings, okay? We can be as automated as you want, okay? And then, of course, once you process the payment, we're going to capture an image of that payment. We're going to store into DocLink, and that payment is going to be linked to all the invoices and all the associated documents. So you have a complete history from beginning to end. Okay? So folks, this is not just the processing of your invoice. This is also the management of your purchase orders and your receiving documents as well. Now, so moving on, and like I said, we're going to give you a demonstration of the AP process. You can see it live. But what about other areas? How can we help in other areas? Many of you have corporate company credit card. Are you spending hours or days trying to reconsolidate the credit card statement? Getting it to the right card holder, getting their approval? How can we streamline that process? So what we can do is we can create a template of your bank statement. All banks now offer the statement in CSV format. Okay, so the bank can get that to you. So all you have to do is you go into DocLink, you click on that import button right here. Okay, you're going to navigate through and find that CSV bank statement. Import it in. Notice here that the bank statement, we have charges for Robert, Diana, and Benjamin. When you click on create, with a simple click, the system will create a separate statement per each cardholder with their itemized charges. So now you can do GL coding of those line transactions. You can use the workflow to route it to the cardholder so they can verify. The cardholder can append their receipt per each transaction if that's your policy. And then at the end of the day, we can push all that line items over to Sage. So AP, you don't have to do that same data entry. Okay. What about sales orders? All the way down to AR invoicing. For those of you who process a lot of orders and generate a lot of AR invoice, is that how can we allow you to track your orders so that way and get those orders in the system right away and be able to quickly to invoice your customers. Okay, how do you improve customer service when a customer calls up and wanted to know where's that with their order in the process? So the idea, folks, first you create a quote, right? You send it to your customer. Using the AIIM feature, we're going to AIIM capture an image of that quote along with all the data about that quote. We're going to store into DocLink, your file cabinet. No need to print and scan. So now when your customers send you the purchase order or a contract or an email to go ahead and proceed with the order, those get stored into the system and that get links to the quote. So now you go into Sage and you process the sales order. Maybe you create an order acknowledgement. Maybe you create the pick ticket and delivery ticket. Okay, so if you create pick ticket, the order gets picked, it's being signed, or now then you deliver the goods and Mr. Customer signed that delivery ticket and you want to store those documents into DocLink. How can we help? Is that when you create your delivery ticket or pick ticket in Sage, Sage can add a barcode to those documents. That barcode probably represents a sales order number. So now when you pick the good or when you deliver the good, Mr. Customer signs it, you can batch scan those signed documents into DocLink. DocLink will read the barcode and know that, oh, that's a sales order number. And then using that sales order number, it's going to look into Sage and it's going to pull over all the data tied to that sales order and attach it to your delivery ticket and your pick ticket so you don't have to do data entry. So allow you to batch store your documents into the system and minimizing data entry. And then now workflow notify AR to invoice if you invoice after you deliver the goods or service, okay? And so now when AR process the invoice and they send it out, and if you sometimes send out the invoice, your customer wants to see a copy of the signed delivery ticket, maybe a copy of the purchase order or contract. Right now, today, they have to go into the file cabinet, look for those documents, copy or scan it in. Then they open up the email, type in the customer email address, and drag and drop those documents in. I don't know about you, but I'm getting a headache talking about that process. So how can we automate it for you? All you have to do is to create the AR invoice, that's it. Using the AIIM feature, we're going to capture an image of the AR invoice we're going to store into DocLink. Using our distribution tool, we have the ability to go into DocLink, look for that signed delivery ticket or the purchase order or the contract, and then we automatically attach it to the invoice, and then we automatically email it out to your customer for you because we're able to read the email address on your invoice or in Sage somewhere or in a database somewhere that's tied to that customer. If you use electronic faxing, and if we recognize a fax number, we will automatically fax it out. If we do not recognize an email address or fax number, then we'll send it to a default printer. So at the end of the day, you just create your AR invoice, that's it. We'll automatically send it out, and in that email, we will have the invoice and the associated supplemental documents. This same tool, once you own it, you can use it for the auto distribution of any types of documents. So yes, when you create a purchase order, we can automatically email it out to your vendors. Or when you create order acknowledgement, we can automatically email it out to your customer. Okay? Any document you generate in-house is going to be automatically sent out. So yes, we can save you a lot of money by doing that. We have customer here, okay, where now that they don't have to mail out those invoices anymore and our system automatically email it out for them, they save $11,000 just on postage. That's excluding printing and copying and staff time of stuffing envelope. Okay. Now, what are some of the concerns from your CFO? Of course, their job is to drive down on company costs, making sure that they're in compliance, making sure they're getting a good ROI on the solution. So do you folks, do you have offsite storage? Why? Why you're paying a company to store your files, manage your file, and to search for your file? And of course, it takes them forever to get those documents to you when you need them. Okay, so eliminate that. All that cost can be eliminated by going electronic, scanning and importing and storing all those documents into your server. So yes, I challenge you folks, find out what you're paying annually for offsite storage. And because all that cost can be eliminated. What about audits? Do you get regular audits? Some of our customers, what they'll do is they will provide a login for the auditors, okay, and provide them to certain security permissions, to certain type of documents so they can do their own searching. Okay. Real life story. We have a Sage client. It's a public company, an international company, and they get regular audits. And one year, the auditor asked them for a whole bunch of documents, which they couldn't produce. They were penalized, folks, $110,000. Yes, $110,000. The CFO at that point said to herself she will never, ever pay that kind of fee again. So they went out searching for a document management solution. They looked at several solutions, and they ended up with DocLink. And today, folks, their number of audits have reduced because they were able to prove to the auditors that all their documents are safeguarded and stored and accessible. Okay, and they will never penalize again. So yes, they provide a login for the auditors. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, so Whitney, your company been audited. Okay, Whitney can go into DocLink. I want you to find for me all these AP documents for all your companies. And those documents, by the way, have to be within a certain year. So you submit your search criteria and click on search. In literally seconds, I'm talking about seconds, the system will bring up all the documents meeting that search criteria. In this case, it's 131 documents. You can now print out the list, email it out, or download it to a thumb drive or CD or DVD. When you download those documents, you also have the ability to include the DocLink search engine with that download into the thumb drive. So when the auditor receives that thumb drive, they can go into and do DocLink search. Show me the AP check anytime E2P, pay a company's call, Pentegra. We actually have customers using this tool here in their legal department. When they go to court, okay, they go into DocLink, search for all the documents, download it to a thumb drive. So their attorney at court is doing DocLink search while their opponent's dealing with papers. Okay. about expense report? Are some of you still using the good old Excel spreadsheet? If so, here's how we can help, okay? And actually, I use this religiously because when I travel, I lose my receipt all the time. And when I lose my receipt, I don't get reimbursed. We have a very strict policy. So what I do when I travel, I pull out my mobile device. And on my mobile device, I can search from my client file. I can even have access to my workflow with any documents waiting for my approval. I can also capture documents. Now, for me, I capture receipts. But for other clients, they use the DocLink mobile for other purpose. If you are in the service industry and you do a service, okay, you take site photo. AAA, you're all familiar with AAA, right? So they use our system and they actually use it in their claim department. So when there's an accident, the client submit a claim, the inspector goes out in the field, inspect the damaged automobile, take pictures of the damaged automobile through their mobile, DocLink mobile. That gets uploaded into DocLink and the picture gets linked to the claim. So for me, I'm going to take pictures of my receipt. Automatically have the company that I belong part of, my name, the date, the receipt. I just need to type in the dollar amount and the purpose of the expense. And then it gets uploaded into DocLink. When I'm ready, when I get to the hotel or at the end of the month, I log in and the system will generate my expense report. It will automatically have my name, the expense report number. It will auto-generate my expense report with my expenses, with the GL code already been done, with the receipt attached. So now workflow will automatically route it to my manager who's on the road all the time. He can approve off on my expense, and then workflow notify my accounting, and all this could push over to Sage, and they process the payment. Before, it actually takes me approximately 2 weeks from the time that I submit my expense report to getting it approved to getting my reimbursement. Today, I can submit my expense report, get it approved, and pay on the same day. Okay. What about HR? HR is the second most paper intensive in most organizations. Because our system is designed for enterprise-wide use, our security is very tight and very granular. We have a full audit log. Who logged in, what day, what time, what action was performed to which document. You can restrict it down so certain people can only have access to certain type of documents. And what can they do in the system? Can they print? Can they email? Can they view? Can they edit? Can they delete? And on and on and on. So yes, folks, our system can help you comply with HIPAA requirements, Sarbanes-Oxley, and other government regulated policy. So yes, you can secure your employee files. We can help you streamline your onboarding process. We can help you track your employee certification, who's active, who's inactive, who's full-time, who's part-time, and so on. When you onboard new staff, there's a lot of action that has to be performed. So we make sure that you comply and all those actions been performed. Did you in fact provide an employee handbook to the employee? Did someone create a key, computer, email, and on and on? Okay. We actually have a customer, a Sage customer also in Puerto Rico. And they're one of the biggest complaints they have is when they onboard new staff. They have to provide an employee handbook that is 250 pages. Okay. Now, like all of us, when you hire new staff, what do they do the first couple of days? They sit there and they read all the handbook, all the manuals, instructions, and so on. Your company is paying them to do that. With this Sage client, what they did is when they hire new staff, they use workflow so that when they're hired, workflow will email out a copy of the employee handbook. And in that email, this new employee, by clicking approve, they acknowledge they received the employee handbook and it's read. So by the time that the first day when they start, all those documents been read. So they can start being trained and working right away, instead of them spending time reading the handbook, first couple of days. Just an example of areas of how we can help in HR. There's HR forms and all that good stuff too that we can talk about, okay? Now, another big news of DocLink is contract management, okay? With our basic system, we include version control, check-in, check-out capability. Now, some of you may decide that, hey, I just want to store executed contract into the system. I want to able to manage the life cycle of the document, and that's it. That's fine. We can do that. But what about your draft documents? Okay, so here's an example. I draft up a contract. It's in Word format. I store it into DocLink. Now workflow will notify my manager, okay, for him to review and make any necessary edits. He's about to go to a conference. So he's going to check that contract out. When he checks it out, the system's going to lock that contract so no one else can work on it. They can look at it, they just can't work on it. So he checks it out to his laptop. On the plane, he can edit, he can work on it. When he arrives at the hotel, he's going to check that contract back in. Once he checks it back in, once he checks it back in, the system is going to then track the version. So that way here, the original contract is created on this day and time by this person. The second person worked on his version number 2 and version number 3 and so on. So once this contract is final, you email out the contract. Our system will convert that into TIFF or PDF format. The customer or vendors will sign it, send it back to you, the executed contract. You store the signed executed contract into DocLink. You apply the expiration date, the retention date, so that way the system can send you auto alert when the time is up. Okay, simple news for contract management. So at the end of the day, folks, is we have all the tools to help you to be as paperless as you want and to be as automated as you want. The big return your investment is you can start it in one area and you can expand it and use it company-wide. Okay? So at this time, what I'm going to do is I am going to give you a quick demonstration. So take a look.
Hello. Today I'm going to walk you through DocLink functionality, including loading a document, moving the document through a workflow, email notifications, document annotations, searching methods, and dealing with audit documents. For this demonstration, we're going to assume documents have already been indexed into DocLink. This could be one of a couple different methods via OCR, email import, or scanning physical paper into a folder that is then indexed into DocLink. And the first step then is going to be that we're going to log into DocLink as an accounts payable user, Jane. When we log into the DocLink Smart Client, we're going to go to the Workflow tab at the top and click on the AP processing workflow, then go to the unprocessed status of that workflow and click on Search. Here we see a couple different documents that are waiting in our queue to be worked on. We're just going to deal with the top document first. This is an AP invoice coming from our Apple vendor. And we can see the first thing is we have a bunch of document properties that have been indexed to the document. Invoice number, invoice information, vendor information. The next step in this process is to do GL coding. So this is going to take the place of doing GL coding in Sage 100 in the invoice data entry screen. We bring that functionality into DocLink so we don't have to do double entry. The first step of this process is that I click on the Create New Stamp button. Everything in the header data fills in. This is the information that would come from the indexed values that we see here. The last step in this process is I need to GL code it to whatever accounts that I need to code it to. I can do this as a manual process by clicking the Add button. We use the same geocodes that we do from Sage 100. If I wanted to filter these down from a user, let's say we didn't want a user to see anything but the 400s, then we can filter these down a little bit more. We can also use what we call templating. So we know that this Apple invoice comes in a lot. We get the same component speakers all the time from Apple. So instead of filling all that data in, we're going to just use a template to fill in the Apple vendor information. By doing this, we can see that our information, our header has filled out completely, and our line details have filled out as well. Last step in this process is we want to stamp that document. When we do that, DocLink is creating an audit trail. So if we go and look at the second page of that in the thumbnail view, we can see our original invoice. We can see our stamped page. That is now the second page of that invoice. This is one used to make an audit connection so we can see what data is going to be imported into Sage 100. We can also use this for future use. So if someone needs to come back and look and see what was imported, we can, and be certain that this is the data that was imported versus something else. All right, the last step of this process is to send to an approver. Now, we could actually do this via some automation. If we want to look at the distribution total, we can do dollar value rules that would send to an appropriate approver based on those dollar value limits automatically. We'd simply send it to a workflow status called auto route or auto move, something like that, where DocLink is going to interrogate that document and the data and then send it to that appropriate person. For this example, I'm just going to send it to our CFO. All right, the next step in this process is the approval process. Now, we've sent the document to the CFO, and they need to know when they receive documents. So DocLink will be able to send out document notifications. We go and look at our CFO email here. A couple new notifications came in from that document we sent. The look and feel of this can change. We can do whatever we want to template the notification. So it might look something like this, or we're just notifying them that something is in their workflow. We can also do something like this, where the document is actually attached. The document data is a little bit more verbose, and we can actually do an approval or denial of that document directly from email as well. So a user would not have to be logged into DocLink. They don't even need DocLink installed in their machine. They could simply just click the approve button, and the document is going to move to that right status. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. All right, so that document has been approved by our CFO and has been sent back to our accounts payable team. So if we log in back to DocLink, we're going to, again, pretend like we're Jane, our AP person. And instead of going to the unprocessed status, we're going to go to the approved status instead. Go ahead and click on search. You can now see that document that we've been dealing with as priority. If we double click on that, we can see the same document we've been dealing with. We can see that distribution stamp added in the thumbnail view. And we've now added one extra component here. Since we approved that document in email, an approval note has been added to that invoice. So not only does the document move, but an approval note gets added with that user's digital signature. So we can be certain the CFO is actually putting that note on and not somebody else. All right, the last step here is we want to do an import into Sage 100. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the next workflow status. I'm just reviewing this document. I'm going to go ahead and click on Enter into the Sage. By doing this, DocLink is going to monitor that status and on a regular interval take all the invoices that need to be imported and import them into Sage 100. So when we go into Sage 100, we can launch the invoice data entry screen. We've already selected that vendor, and then we can see that the invoice number has pulled in. We've actually created a transaction in Sage 100. All the header information, the line information that we had added to that document in the distribution stamp has now been ported over into the invoice data entry screen. And finally, we can click on the View Documents button directly from Sage. I'm going to log in as yourself, of course. And DocLink is going to be able to find that document, searching by the vendor code and the invoice number. So it's making a two-way match on those two property values to be able to find that specific transaction and launch it into DocLink. Now, there's other ways of finding documents in DocLink that aren't starting from the actual ERP system itself. If we wanted to keep users out of the ERP, Sage 100, and actually just go into DocLink and search and retrieve documents, we can as well. So in DocLink, we can, again, use the DocLink Smart Client. We'll go to the advanced inquiry this time, and we'll use a couple of our saved searches. So the first of which is we want to find invoices and checks. So talking about checks, we can simply use the same process you're used to, cutting checks in Sage. That might be the check payment, so electronic check, maybe generate ACH. That process is the same. We simply just send it to a virtual printer, and DocLink takes over and grabs all that data we want. So back in DocLink, we can go and search using our saved search. I'm looking for an invoice and check, matching the invoice number 31073, and I'm going to click on search. We can see here that we have the original invoice and the check that are now matched by invoice number. There's check number. So we can actually tell an invoice has been paid by simply looking at the data on it. The check information, once it's cut, is going to take that check information and give it back to the invoice that it paid. So if we open these up, we can view them side by side. We can view the invoice information. That's what we have currently up here. So invoice information, item information, and check information is all grouped in a nice orderly fashion. We can now see the check number 59750 has paid that invoice, and we can now see the check linked to that as well. We go back to our search here about the airway property invoice. We can mouse over the airway property search term, and I can click on that. This functionality is called drill down searching, so we can actually search on anything linking to that vendor name airway property in the system. DocLink is going to search every document type, and this is going to prevent us from having to go back, doing another search. We can simply research what we want to find by simply clicking a single button click. All right, so if we go back, we're going to use another saved search. We're going to choose all invoices from 2017. This is going to be used for that example when we're dealing with auditors. So an auditor comes in and says, I want to see all your invoices for 2017. You can simply click on that save search and then search it. So now we have all those invoices from 2017. We can highlight those, mark them for download. What we're going to actually do is download a copy of all this, all the images and the data and the audit trail linking to that document, and save it out to a folder location for that auditor. So when I click start, I'm going to download all these to a saved location. We're going to just say to auditor, click OK, start that transaction, and then download all those documents. When we're done, all those documents are now available in my to auditor folder here. And I can actually use a light client of DocLink to launch it. I'm going to go and point back to my folder where my data is located. And DocLink is going to open with that company information, that document type information, and now our auditor is going to be able to see all the documents they requested without pulling boxes, without finding images or data or PDFs and TIFFs in a folder structure. Now we don't have to put them back in their folders and search for them later. It's just an easy way to get the data that the auditor wants in an orderly fashion without actually pulling a license that normal users would be using. So the light client does not pull out a license. They can search and retrieve just like they want, and then they'd be on their way. Thanks for watching.
All right. So the next step is we're going to have, hopefully, like I said, is that demo is
today I'm going to walk you through DocLink functionality, including
So sorry about that. So hopefully that will give you a better idea of the system and how it can be utilized within your organization, not just only, like I said, for AP automation, but other business units as well. At this time, we're going to open up for any questions. Whitney?
Okay, so while people type in any questions, I did have a few here. I'll go ahead and read them. Can prior invoices already paid get added to the software?
Absolutely. So just imagine anything that you have in your file cabinets can be stored to the system. So if the invoice, you scan them into DocLink by typing in invoice number, because it's already in Sage, remember, you can look into Sage and pull over all the payment history and information and attach it to the invoice. So yes.
And then to kind of go off that one, does DocLink match purchase orders to an invoice?
Yes. So when you create the purchase order, we're going to capture an image of it and store in DocLink along with your receiving as well if you do receiving. When the invoice comes in, we can have OCR to read the data on the invoice down to the line item, the quantity, description, the dollar amount, and do automated matching against your purchase order and against your receivings. And if everything match, then workflow will notify you, and here's the list of invoice, Whitney, that came in today and everything matched, so that you can go on to your next step. Awesome. If there's any discrepancy, maybe the quantity didn't match or the dollar amount didn't match, missing, like tax or shipping, then the system will put those documents into an exception folder, and then workflow will notify you, here, Whitney, here's the list of invoice that came in with discrepancies, and here are the discrepancies. So it's actually highlighted, and so you don't have to sit there, read through everything to find out what the discrepancies are.
Okay, very good. And then how many years of invoices do companies typically store in DocLink?
It's all depending on your retention period, but we find that most, at least 7 years. And then after that, they tend to, get rid of those invoices. But then we have a few that keep everything forever. So there's no wrong or right. It's what you feel comfortable with and how much you want to keep and how long.
And then just to piggyback off that as well, is a document retention policy able to be built into DocLink?
Yes. Yes. So you decide if your retention period is, let's say, 7 years for your vendor invoices, based on the, let's say, payment date, then our system, you can apply the retention schedule to the payment date of that invoice, and the system can send you auto alerts to tell you, when the 7 years, 3 months before it ends or after it's met, or you go in and do a manual searching. Show me all the AP invoices that met its retention period yesterday or last month, and you'll bring it up and you purge it from the system.
Okay, and then this one just came in too. Is the application web-based, and is it mobile friendly?
Yes, it could be. DocLink is available in different flavors. We have some customers that prefer on-prem. So they purchase the software. It's a one-time investment. We will install the software on your server, on your environment, okay? Others, we have initiative where they want everything on the cloud. So if you use a cloud-hosted provider service, then you purchase the software and we will install it on your hosted server. Also, SaaS solution will be available as well. So it doesn't go on your server. It's a monthly cost. It will reside on the All-Tech Azure server, and you pay as you go. It can be mobile. Of course, as I demonstrated, on the mobile device, you can search for documents, you can capture documents, you can do workflow approval on the mobile. On the web, you can search workflow approval, GL coding as well. And very soon you will, not today, but very soon you will be able to upload documents on the web as well. And also form creation. So on the web, you can go in and, create you submit your expense report or fill in a job application form. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yep. Okay, well, and we are just about out of time today, so I think that we'll cover it. I don't see any more questions coming in, but thank you so much, Laura. And yeah, we will feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any other additional questions. Laura, was there anything else that you wanted to add or end with?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. So if you folks, this is just a snippet of what the system can do. Every organization, business and documents are a little bit different. So if you'd like to learn more, contact E2B. The next step is we'll schedule a discovery call because we want to understand your requirements and your business process. Then we'll put together the appropriate solution and cost and provide you with a live demonstration based around your specific requirements. And other than that, like I said, is don't wait until something happens to your documents, okay? Or don't wait until you have an audit and then look into going paperless. Be proactive, go paperless and go green.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks again, Laura, and thanks everyone for attending. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.